For years, I believed consistency could turn strangers into family. I owned a small construction company, which meant my days began before sunrise and usually ended with concrete dust in my hair and invoices waiting on the kitchen table. I was not wealthy. Every dollar had weight. Every check I wrote represented hours beneath the sun, arguments with suppliers, aching joints, and jobs I accepted when I should have rested. Still, I spent freely on Monica's children. Logan needed sports equipment. I paid. Emily needed private tutoring, school trips, insurance, extracurricular programs, and college preparation courses. I paid for those too. Their biological father, Brian, existed mostly as a name glowing on their phones. He made promises. He canceled visits. He spoke about future plans as though responsibility were always waiting somewhere beyond the next weekend. I stayed. I never asked Emily to call me Dad. I never tried to erase Brian. I simply wanted her to know that when life became difficult, there was a man in the house who would not disappear. I thought that mattered. The first cracks were small. Emily thanked Monica for things I had purchased. She called Brian whenever she had good news, even when he had contributed nothing. When I asked about her grades, she answered as though I were an accountant inspecting an expense. Monica always defended her. "She's young, David. She's confused. Give her time." So I gave her time. Years of it. Then one evening, we sat at the kitchen table discussing college applications. Emily's tutor had recommended additional sessions before her entrance exams. The price was painful, but I had already calculated which equipment purchase I could delay at the company. I told her I would make it work. She barely looked up. Monica mentioned that the application required family information. I asked whether Emily needed help filling it out. That was when she turned toward me. Her face was calm, almost bored. "Your name will never be listed as my father," she said. "You're just my mom's husband." The room became very quiet. Monica whispered her name, but there was no anger in her voice. Only embarrassment, as though Emily had broken a glass in front of a guest. I could have shouted. I could have listed every payment, every sacrifice, every morning I had driven Emily to school while Brian slept through another promised visit. Instead, I nodded. "All right," I said. "Then your father can pay for the additional tutoring." Emily stared at me. Monica leaned forward. "David, don't be childish." But I was finished arguing with people who wanted my responsibility without recognizing my place. The next morning, I canceled the tutoring payments. Brian promised he would take over. He told Emily not to worry. He said he was arranging everything. Nothing arrived. The tutor waited through 2 unpaid invoices before ending the lessons. Emily tried studying alone, but panic replaced discipline. Practice scores dropped. Assignments came back covered in red marks. Her confidence collapsed almost as quickly as her grades. At first, she blamed me. Then she blamed the tutor. Finally, she started calling Brian. He answered less and less. The truth arrived on a Saturday afternoon when Monica saw photographs online. Brian was standing beside a new fishing boat, smiling with his friends. There were pictures from lakeside cabins, restaurants, and weekend trips. The boat cost more than a year of Emily's tutoring. Monica sat on the couch staring at the screen until her face changed. For years, she had called him unreliable. That day, she finally called him selfish. She confronted me afterward. "You knew he wouldn't pay." "Yes." "So you let her fail?" I looked at the woman I loved and felt something inside me go cold. "No, Monica." Her father let her down. I simply stopped hiding it. Emily was standing in the hallway. I knew she was listening. I told them both the truth. I never tried to replace Brian. I never asked to be placed above him. But I'm tired of being invisible until someone needs another check. Nobody answered. There was nothing left to say. Emily found a part-time job at a grocery store. At first, she came home exhausted and angry. Then something changed. She began saving. She negotiated fewer tutoring sessions and paid part of the cost herself. She studied during lunch breaks. She stopped assuming that every problem would be solved by my bank account. Her grades slowly recovered. Brian became harder to reach. Monica eventually apologized. She admitted that every excuse she made for Brian had taught Emily that my generosity was not love, but obligation. She had protected the man who abandoned responsibility and pressured the man who accepted it. Several months later, Emily found me in the garage after work. She stood among the tools and sawdust, holding an envelope containing part of what I had paid for her earlier courses. I did not take it. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't understand what you were doing for me." For once, there was no demand hidden behind her words. I told her to keep the money for college. Not because she was entitled to it. Because gratitude had finally replaced entitlement. She never called me Dad. I never asked her to. But after that day, when she introduced me, she no longer said, "My mom's husband." She said, "This is David. He raised me." Sometimes love becomes invisible when it is given without limits. Sometimes people only understand the weight you carried after you finally put it down. I stopped paying one bill, and the whole family discovered who had truly been supporting Emily's future. Was I wrong to step back, or was it the only way to teach them that generosity is a gift, not a debt I owed? 3 months after Emily thanked me, Brian finally remembered that he had a daughter. He did not call to ask about her grades. He did not ask whether she had recovered from the weeks of missed tutoring or how many late shifts she worked at the grocery store to pay for the lessons herself. He called because he was angry. Emily had stopped answering him. Monica stood in the kitchen with the phone pressed to her ear while Brian shouted loudly enough for me to hear every word. He accused her of turning Emily against him. He said I had manipulated the situation to make him look irresponsible. He even claimed that I had deliberately embarrassed him by refusing to continue paying. I listened from the doorway, still wearing my work boots. It was strange hearing a man defend his honor after abandoning every obligation attached to it. Monica tried to stay calm. She reminded him about the unpaid tutor. She mentioned the unanswered calls. Then she brought up the photographs of his fishing boat. Brian laughed. He said the boat had nothing to do with Emily. That sentence changed Monica. For years, she had softened every truth about him. When he missed birthdays, she said he was busy. When his support payments arrived late, she said he was struggling. When Emily cried after another cancelled weekend, Monica promised that her father still loved her. But there are lies a mother tells to protect her child, and there are lies she tells because admitting the truth would force her to confront her own mistakes. That afternoon, Monica finally stopped lying. "Your daughter needed you," she said. "You bought yourself a boat." Then she ended the call. Emily had been standing near the stairs. She heard everything. Her face remained still, but I recognized the look in her eyes. It was the same expression I had seen on clients when they discovered that a beautiful wall had been built over rotten timber. The collapse had begun long before the crack appeared. That evening, Brian sent Emily a message. He told her that money was tight and promised to make things right after the boating season. He included a photograph of himself holding a large fish, as though the picture might prove he was still a father worth admiring. Emily deleted it. I said nothing. The next weeks changed her more than any punishment could have. She woke before school to study. She worked 4 evenings each week. She stopped asking Monica for spending money and began keeping every receipt in a small envelope beside her bed. Sometimes I saw her counting bills at the kitchen table. There was shame in her silence. But there was strength too. One night she asked whether she could help at my company on Saturdays. I nearly refused. Construction sites were no place for guilt disguised as repayment. But she insisted that she wanted to understand what my money had cost me. So I gave her work. Not symbolic work. Real work. She cleaned the office, organized supply records, carried light materials, and spent hours entering invoices into an ancient computer that froze whenever she moved too quickly. By noon, her shoulders ached. By evening, her hands were stained with dust. She never complained. At the end of her first Saturday, I handed her an envelope with her wages. She stared at it for a long time. "This would only cover 2 tutoring sessions," she whispered. "Yes." She looked across the yard at my men loading equipment beneath the fading sun. "How did you pay for everything?" "I worked." The answer sounded cruel because it was simple. Every lesson she had skipped without caring, every trip she had taken without thanking me, every activity she had abandoned after I paid the registration fee, each one had been purchased with pieces of my life. For the first time, she understood that money did not appear. Someone surrendered time for it. Someone came home exhausted. Someone paid. Monica changed as well. She stopped asking me to rescue every problem. When Logan wanted new sports equipment, she made him contribute from his savings. When Emily needed another exam course, Monica contacted Brian first. He never replied. His boat appeared online again and again, shining beneath a clean blue sky while his daughter worked beneath fluorescent grocery store lights. The contrast became impossible to excuse. Several months later, Emily received her new exam results. They were not perfect, but they were strong enough to keep her college plans alive. She found me alone in my office. "I used to think Brian was my father because we shared blood," she said. "And I thought you had to help me because you married Mom." I waited. I was wrong about both things. She placed her results on my desk, then thanked me for every lesson, every trip, every bill, and every year I had spent standing where another man should have stood. I wanted those words for so long. When they finally came, they did not heal everything. Some wounds close slowly. Some never disappear. But her gratitude was no longer desperation. She expected nothing from me. That made it real. I agreed to help with part of her remaining tutoring, but only if she continued working and paying what she could. She accepted without argument. Brian remained somewhere beyond our home, chasing weekends and avoiding responsibility. His absence no longer confused anyone. Monica stopped defending him. Emily stopped waiting for him. And I stopped trying to prove that I belong. I had learned that sacrifice offered without boundaries eventually becomes permission for others to use you. By stepping back, I had not abandoned Emily. I had forced the truth into the open. Sometimes carrying a family is an act of love. Sometimes putting the burden down is the only love they understand. Would you have kept paying after being told you were nothing, or would you have made the real father answer for the life he helped create? The acceptance letter arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. Emily stood in the doorway holding the envelope with both hands, staring at it as though opening it might change whatever was written inside. Monica hovered beside her, too nervous to breathe. I had just returned from inspecting a construction site, my jacket soaked through, my boots leaving muddy prints across the kitchen floor. Nobody spoke. Finally, Emily tore the envelope open. Her eyes raced across the page. Then she smiled. Not the careless smile of a teenager expecting life to reward her automatically, but the quiet smile of someone who had fought for something with her own hands. "I got in." Monica burst into tears before Emily finished the sentence. She wrapped her daughter in a hug that seemed to carry years of relief, guilt, and hope all at once. I stayed where I was. Emily looked at me across the room. Months earlier she would have expected me to celebrate first, to ask how much tuition would cost, to begin calculating another payment plan before anyone else had finished congratulating her. This time she simply walked over and handed me the letter. "I wanted you to read it." Those 6 words meant more than she realized. I unfolded the paper slowly. She had earned admission into the program she had dreamed about for years. Her scores had recovered enough to secure a place despite everything that had happened after the tutoring stopped. She had done it. Not because someone rescued her. Because she refused to quit. "I'm proud of you," I said. She nodded, fighting back tears. "Thank you." There was no discussion about money. No assumptions. No expectations. That silence told me she had changed more than any apology ever could. A week later we met with the university's financial office to discuss tuition. Emily arrived carrying a notebook filled with scholarship applications, estimated work hours, savings, and projected expenses. She had calculated everything. The advisor looked impressed. "So you'll be contributing yourself?" Emily answered before anyone else could speak. "Yes. I don't expect someone else to carry my future anymore." I glanced toward Monica. She lowered her eyes. After the meeting, we walked across campus together. Students hurried between buildings, laughing about classes that had not even begun. Emily slowed her pace. "I've been thinking about something," she said. I waited. "When I told you that your name would never be listed as my father." She stopped walking. "I thought being honest meant saying whatever I felt." Her voice trembled. "But honesty without gratitude is just another kind of cruelty." Neither of us moved. Cars rolled past beyond the campus gates. Somewhere nearby, a bell echoed through the afternoon air. "I can't erase what I said," she continued. "If I could, I would." I looked at the young woman standing before me. She was no longer the girl who measured love by biology. Life had educated her in ways no tutor ever could. "You don't erase mistakes," I answered. "You outgrow them." She nodded silently. That evening Monica asked if we could sit together after dinner. She admitted she had spent years trying to keep peace between two households by expecting the dependable man to sacrifice more while demanding nothing from the unreliable one. "I made your kindness look ordinary," she said quietly. "That wasn't fair." "No," I replied. "It wasn't." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "For too long I acted as though you were strongest, so I gave you the heaviest burden." Her words settled over the room like dust after demolition. Sometimes the damage inside a family isn't caused by shouting. Sometimes it's built one excuse at a time. Brian never changed. He sent Emily a brief text congratulating her on getting accepted into college. He added a fishing emoji. Nothing else. No offer to help. No apology. No money. Emily showed me the message before deleting it. "I used to wait for him," she admitted. "And now? I don't." The weeks before college passed quickly. Emily continued working, saving every paycheck she could. On weekends she still helped organize invoices at my office, even after I told her she no longer needed to. "I know," she answered. "Then why keep coming?" She smiled. "Because this is where I learned what support actually costs." Looking around the office, I realized something had quietly changed. I no longer felt like a man trying to earn a place inside someone else's family. Respect had finally replaced obligation. Not because I demanded it. Because I had been willing to lose everything rather than continue buying affection that was never genuine. Sometimes the greatest lesson a parent teaches isn't written in advice. Sometimes it's written in the moment they stop protecting everyone from the consequences of their own choices. If I had kept paying after being told I was nothing, Emily might never have discovered who had truly stood beside her all those years. Would you have continued sacrificing in silence, or would you have finally stepped back and allowed the truth to speak for itself? Summer ended faster than any of us expected. Emily left for college with 2 suitcases, a used laptop, and a determination I had never seen in her before. Months earlier she would have climbed into the car assuming every expense had already been handled by someone else. Now she carried a folder filled with work schedules, scholarship documents, payment deadlines, and a notebook where every dollar had a purpose. Before we left the driveway, she looked at me. "I've got the first payment covered." I smiled. I know. Those words meant more than she realized. She no longer wanted someone to rescue her. She wanted someone to believe she could stand on her own. The campus was alive with nervous students and emotional parents. Cars lined every road. Volunteers pushed carts loaded with boxes toward residence halls. Everywhere I looked, families were celebrating new beginnings. We unloaded her belongings without saying much. When everything was finally arranged inside her room, Monica hugged Emily so tightly that neither of them could stop crying. I waited outside. A few minutes later, Emily joined me. "I used to think growing up meant becoming independent from people," she said. "And now? I think it means understanding who carried you before you learned to walk by yourself." I nodded. There was nothing to add. As we prepared to leave, she reached into her backpack and handed me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. It wasn't long. "Thank you for every early morning. Thank you for every late payment you never complained about. Thank you for believing in me even when I didn't deserve it. You never asked me to call you Dad, but you taught me what one looks like." I folded the paper carefully and placed it inside my wallet. Some things are worth more than money. Life settled into a different rhythm after that. The house became quieter. Logan finished high school and started taking more responsibility for himself after watching everything that had happened with his sister. Monica no longer expected me to solve every financial problem that appeared. We discussed decisions together instead of assuming my checkbook would quietly absorb another expense. Respect had entered our home without anyone announcing its arrival. Then one evening Brian called again. This time he wanted credit. He claimed Emily's college acceptance proved that she had inherited his intelligence. He spoke proudly about her future as though he had built it with his own hands. I listened without interrupting. When he finally paused, I asked one question. "How much did you contribute to her education this year?" Silence. "I've been busy." "I know. I plan to help." "I know. I still love my daughter." "I hope you do." He waited for an argument. I had none to give him. People reveal themselves through patterns, not promises. When the call ended, I realized I felt nothing. Not anger. Not resentment. Only relief that I no longer measured my worth against another man's failures. Several weeks later, Emily came home for her first weekend visit. She looked different. More confident. More tired. More adult. After dinner, she insisted on washing the dishes while Monica laughed that college had worked miracles. Emily shook her head. No. Work did. Later that night, we sat together on the back porch. "I met someone at school," she said. "He asked if you were my dad." I stayed quiet. I told him no. Something tightened inside my chest. Then she continued. "I told him you're the man who raised me." The words settled over the evening like gentle rain. No title. No obligation. No performance. Just the truth. I realized then that respect cannot be purchased with generosity, demanded through sacrifice, or earned by pretending pain does not exist. It grows only after people face the consequences of taking someone for granted. Looking back, I don't regret stopping those tutoring payments. I regret waiting so many years before drawing the line. Because the day I stopped carrying responsibilities that belonged to someone else was the day everyone in our family finally understood their true weight. Sometimes love means giving everything you have. Sometimes love means refusing to give $1 more until gratitude replaces entitlement. If you had been sitting in my chair that night when Emily said I was only her mother's husband, would you have continued paying? Or would you have trusted that the hardest lesson might also become the most valuable one anyone in that house would ever learn?